before I start with this topic, see, the objective is I'll give you an answer here. So just consider that as a model answer only, and that in itself is not complete. Whatever you are going to write for this particular question is the answer. Okay, see, you can make a lot of modification in this. The question is all about the scope of sociology, so you will be able to write the answer for this question once we complete the entire syllabus. So when we discuss about the scope of sociology, you have to basically write from the entire complete understanding of your subject. So here whatever we are going to discuss is actually, I have taken something from the future classes, what all things that we are going to discuss in the future sessions. I have taken something. You may not understand some keywords that I may be using in the session, but you don't want to worry about that. Everything will be discussed in the class later, and you also will develop some better understanding about sociology, and you should be in a position to write even better answer that I'm going to give now. So you will be able to write the scope once you have done with the syllabus. Like, you will come to know what all things need to be incorporated in the scope of sociology, like family, religion, politics, social change, okay, even clinical sociology, criminal sociology, sociology of health, industrial sociology. So sociology is actually permeating through each and every field of social life now. Not only, when we discussed yesterday, what was the context of emergence of sociology? Sociology emerged in response to challenges posed before modernity to explain the social changes. Right? Sociology emerged to explain social change. So the first aspect of scope of sociology is to study the social change. So not only social change, now sociology is studying a lot of other aspects also, so that you will come to know when we discuss the syllabus, or at least by seeing the syllabus itself, I'm sure that you will be in a position to answer this particular question. What is the scope of sociology? Okay, and you will write better answers once we complete the syllabus, so you don't want to worry about this particular topic. And I would say just attend the class and have one reading, and that's enough. Then you don't break your head for this particular topic. This we can do once you complete the syllabus, or you can do it after the prelims. Okay, so when we discuss about the scope of sociology, I'll give you the structure of answer. What you will do is, any question from your first 3 chapters, whatever question that you're going to get from the first 3 chapters, whether it is scope of sociology or positivism, non-positivism, anything from the first 3 chapters, you have to talk about emergence of sociology. So, and you don't want to write completely about emergence of sociology. The first 3 chapters all about emergence and the initial sociology and the initial approach. Okay, see, can you turn off your mic? Whenever you want to talk, you can turn on, and otherwise please keep it turned off. Okay, so we were talking about, first you have to write about emergence of sociology. So you don't want to write in 1 paragraph or 2 paragraph. You just need to write only 1 line, that you can write by saying sociology emerged in response to the challenges posed before modernity in medieval Europe. So you can actually write all those things that we have discussed in the previous session. Sociology emerged in response to challenges posed before modernity. So we are talking about modernity, we are talking about the challenges, we are talking about medieval Europe, and as a response to challenges, sociology emerged. So that should be your first line. Okay, and the way you write, the language that you use, it's okay, it's up to you, but this, if you can reproduce the same line, it is better. Okay, so then after that, what the initial sociologist did is, initial sociologist tried to use the methods directly from natural sciences. Okay, so to get that initial legitimacy to the discipline. Sociology is a very young discipline, and sociology is going to study social changes. So there were a lot of established bodies of knowledge, and people started accepting only science. So initial sociologists wanted to make it on the line similar to natural science, and they have used the methods also directly from natural science. So from there onwards, there is always a question, what is actually the scope of sociology? Okay, so when we discuss about scope of sociology, we will have to discuss from the emergence to till now. So what we can do is, we can divide the period from 1838 to till now into different phases. For example, first phase we can understand during this time, initial phase 1838 to 80. Okay, and then when we discuss about scope of the subject, so that is the first phase. Then we can say 1880 to 1940. Okay, see, you will see the important changes which is actually happening during 1940s, 50s and 60s with Parson, Davis and Moore, etc. The functional theorization, etc. that we are going to discuss later. So 1880 to 1940. That is the second phase. Third phase is 1940 to 1990, and then the fourth phase is 1990 to up till now. Now again, one more thing which I want to tell you is there is no such clear-cut division. You won't see this. Yeah, you won't see this division, you won't see this division in any standard textbooks. So this is for your convenience. I am giving you these divisions, so it is easy to understand in these different parts. Okay, so we have divided the entire period from the emergence to till now in 4 phases, and you're going to study different thinkers, and I'm accommodating all those thinkers in these different phases. So first, when we talk about this phase, we will talk about the initial sociologist like Auguste Comte, who is the father of sociology. So we will write Auguste Comte here. Okay, we will talk about then Spencer here, Herbert Spencer, etc. So even Saint Simon also you can discuss here. Then 1880 to 1940, when we discuss 2 prominent thinkers that we discuss is actually Weber and Durkheim. Why I am not talking about Marx is because Marx is not a pure sociologist. He never wrote as a sociologist. He never called himself as a sociologist. He never gave sociological explanation. He's more like, he's a philosopher or a political scientist or an economist. But his concern towards society, because of that reason, we accommodate him as a sociologist. Or since sociology is a relatively young discipline, there were not much theorists, not much academicians, okay, not much theories. So to get that, I've told you now that initial legitimacy and to get some theories, we have accommodated Marxian writings in the scope of sociology. I'm not mentioning Marx here during this phase. Then this phase is very important. So here we will talk about Parson. Okay, very important thinker that you need to study. This person also is there in the syllabus. Durkheim also there. Parson also there. Then Merton. Okay, Merton. And then some other people also like C. Wright Mills, Karl Popper, different other people also we will discuss during this period. And 1990 onwards, again, all this contemporary sociologists. You don't want to specifically mention any name here because it is not there in your syllabus. You can, whatever studies that you are seeing from the materials, you can write here. But these are the names which has to be there when you discuss about the scope of sociology. These are the key names which has to be there in your answer, the 6 names. So we start with the first phase, 1838 to 1880. So what Auguste Comte says is, sociology is the study of social statics and social dynamics. So in his books, Course of Positive Philosophy and the System of Positive Polity, he delineates the scope of sociology in terms of social statics and social dynamics. Social static means those static items. Social dynamics means changing items. So basically he is proposing the study of the static part as well as the changing part. Okay, that static part means the structure of society. So you have to study the structure as well as change. And if you see your paper 2 syllabus, you can see after the first part, that is the thinkers, you will see social structure and then social change. So that is what Auguste Comte's scope of sociology. And he also make claims or propositions that you have to make theories, you have to make universal laws, etc. All these things we will discuss when we discuss with the PDF. Okay. So that's about the scope of sociology according to Comte. Now when it comes to Spencer, what he did is, I've told you already, the initial sociologist, they wanted to make sociology on the line similar to natural sciences. So Saint Simon initially compared or thought of social physics that we have discussed yesterday. Herbert Spencer actually, he tried to make a analogy between biology. Like he compared society we are studying society and biology is studying organism, right? So he tried to make an analogy between society and organism. Like in case of society, if you see, there are different subsystems. Okay, in society there are different subsystems, like in terms of economic system, political system, cultural system, family system. So there are different subsystems, very much like there are organs in the body. So in the organism there are organs. Similar to that, in society there are subsystems. So you can make a comparison between society and organism because these two are almost same. Now within subsystem, if you see, there are different groups. For example, political system, economic system, whatever system, if you see, these are further divided into small groups. Okay, and similarly organs further divide, you can see further reducible element in terms of tissues. Okay, so you can make a comparison between this. Similarly, these groups, ultimately, what is the final element of society? It is the individual. So very much like that here, when it comes to the organism, it is the cells. So in organism, what is cells? Exactly in the same way you can compare individual in case of society. So you can make an analogy between society and organism. So sociology can also be studied like, biology. So this is what actually told by Spencer. These two sociologists were macro sociologists. Okay, means gave importance to society. Macro perspective is what they have used. So that's about the first phase. So you just need to write these two thinkers only, Auguste Comte and Herbert Spencer. Auguste Comte said study of social statics and social dynamics. See, these words you will understand in a much better way once we complete the syllabus. Even if you are not able to understand these words, just keep this in mind, and I am discussing in such a way that you will not forget it. Later when we discuss it, everything will be there, no problem. You will be able to interpret it in a better way. So now we need to go for Weber and Durkheim. Okay, so you can see during 80s, after 80s, Weber actually introduced micro perspective. So Weber is actually introduced micro perspective. So till now we were talking about macro. Macro means giving importance to society and collectivity. Society is considered supreme, society is considered important. External realities need to be studied because initial sociologists gave importance to science. So science will study only the external reality, not the internal aspects. And Auguste Comte even said that the sociologist should never be concerned with the internal meanings, motives, etc. Only study external reality. Okay, but Weber deviated from that. Weber used a micro perspective, that means individual centric approach. And Weber said you have to study the meanings, motives, etc. So individual is all about the motives, meanings, etc. And society is composed of various meanings, motives, etc. of the individual. So he gave importance to individual. He gave importance for studying the meanings, motives, emotions, the internal aspects. Okay, so this is a micro approach. And what Weber said is the scope of sociology is to study social action. You study social action. Now when you're studying social action, what you need to focus is actually establish the cause and effect relationship. So study social action and establish cause and effect relationship between between the action, within the action. So I'm doing an action, here. Establish the cause and effect relationship of this action. Now if you need to establish the cause and effect relationship of this action, firstly you need to know the meanings of the actor. Okay, so I am doing an action. So if you need to establish the cause and effect, you should be knowing the meaning that I am attaching to this action. So this is what scope of sociology according to Weber. Understand the meaning attached by the actor to the action and arrive at an explanation of cause and effect. Okay, just keep this in mind. In detail we are going to study what is social action. This in itself is a theory for you. 800 words I will give you. Okay, and this explanation also is part of that. So here I am just discussing in 40 words maximum, which has to be discussed in 800 words later. We will do that. So after Weber, during this time only, another person, Emile Durkheim. So he is actually the follower of Herbert Spencer and Auguste Comte only. So Emile Durkheim was actually largely influenced by those two thinkers, and he followed a macro approach. Macro approach. So even though these people are writing at the same time, Weber and Durkheim, Weber following micro, Durkheim following macro approach. Okay, so macro approach means giving importance to society. So Weber is giving importance to individual, Durkheim was giving importance to society. Now with this time, during their time, sociology started getting that legitimacy, and sociology has actually accepted as a separate discipline, and sociology have been started teaching in different universities also as a distinct discipline. Okay, so during this time, two schools of thought emerged. One were the followers of Weber and the other were the followers of Durkheim. So the followers of Weber will follow micro approach, followers of Durkheim will follow macro approach, and the followers of Weber is the formal school, this is the formal school, and this is the synthetic school. Okay, this much is clear. So I basically talked about Weber. Weber is micro, giving importance to individual, and formal school, the followers. Durkheim, macro, giving importance to society, and synthetic school. So there are different followers, and I'll give you 2-3 examples under this, not that significant. So I've told you sociology started teaching in different universities during this point of time. So two schools of thought, formal school and synthetic school. Okay, that's about the second phase. When we discuss about the third phase, that is from 1940 to 1990, here you will see combination of approaches. See, let's suppose Parson will say that the problem with Durkheim is what? Problem with Durkheim is he is excluding micro aspects. Okay. Similarly, problem with Weber, excluding macro realities. So Durkheim giving importance to society, ignoring individual. Weber giving importance to individual, ignoring society. So there are exclusivism in both, but both has to be incorporated. Both are equally important according to Parson. For example, Durkheim will say that you are preparing for civil service because of the pressure of society, or pressure of family or friends or anything. But Weber will say it is not because of pressure of family or anything. If that is the case, everybody will have to prepare. It is your own motivation. Okay, so that is what Weber says. So Weber is individual centric, Durkheim is society centric. But what Parson will do is, Parson will integrate this two approach. He follow both micro and macro. So he says both are important. So he will discuss this in terms of value orientation and motivational orientation. So for any action, there are two things. You will follow the value of society and your own motivation also. For example, this is an actor. Okay, actor is having certain goals, like you have certain goals, and actor having different means to achieve this goal. You can attend coaching from any person, you can read any material, but the selection of these goals is with respect to two aspects. Firstly, it is your own motivation. Okay, secondly, it is the values of society, or what the society will tell you. Society will tell you this is the best institute, go and join there, or your motivation, or it can be combination of both. Now the way you move, the action you take, let's suppose you chose this mean, there are different means, M1, M2, M3, Mn, like that different means are there. The actual mean that you are choosing is a combination of what society says, at the same time your own motivation. And there may be more dominance of this also, maybe motivation, or there can be dominance of value also. So both are required, and both will affect the action performed by the individual. That's what Parson say. So Parson favor the exclusivism of both. I hope you understood. So you don't want to worry about this thing that is not required at this point of time. We will be discussing about Parson, slightly difficult thinker, only one difficult thinker in the category, but I'll make it very easy. You won't face any problem with Parson also. So here understand, only one line is what you need to write here. Parson integrated micro and macro approach. Beyond that, you don't want to write under the scope. Is that clear? Any doubts so far? Am I audible properly? Okay.
Yes, sir, audible.
Okay. So Parson integrated this approach. Merton also follows the same approach. Merton also follows this integrated approach. But Merton introduced more concepts like manifest function and latent function, etc. See, we are able to identify the functions directly. Like I am teaching sociology for you. So what is the function of this? You will be gaining knowledge in sociology and you will be clearing the exam. You will be passing the exam. That is manifest. That is the expected outcome, or that is the intended outcome. So this is the intended outcome. But when you are attending this class, there can be some unintended consequences also. The unintended consequences or unintended outcome or latent function. The latent function is your personality is automatically improving, the way you think is also improving. You are not only learning for an exam, you are not only passing the exam, there are a lot of other improvements which are happening. So that is what latent function according to Merton. So till then the only understanding is about manifest function. Anything exists in society, for example Durkheim, who is a functionalist, he will only try to understand the manifest function, something which is seen, something which is intended. But there are some unintended functions also, similarly dysfunctions also. Okay, so these are the new concepts introduced by Merton. That also we need to write. And then other people like Karl Popper, he combined inductive deductive approach. I'll tell you later what is inductive, what is deductive approaches in research methodology. Or if I talk about inductive approach, it is the method that is actually used in sociology in the beginning by the positivist. Positivist means those people who supported the science, and those people who considered sociology as science. So in science, inductive method is what actually generally used. Inductive method is more suitable for quantitative method. It is a quantitative method, so it is more suitable for natural science. For example, first you collect data collection, and then interpretation by using various tools, etc. Okay, and then generalization, and then testing the reliability, validity, and whether it is replicable or not, etc. So these are the steps that is followed in inductive approach. But in case of so here generalization will happen only at this stage. But when it comes to deductive approach, you already make a hypothesis and you will collect data to prove that hypothesis is correct. Okay, so here when Karl Popper comes, what he says is deductive approach is more suitable in sociology, and he also proved that deductive approach is more scientific, or you can use both mix of quantitative and qualitative method. That means mix of inductive and deductive approach. So after that, sociology uses inductive as well as deductive approach. So that point also you need to write. What is inductive, what is deductive, in detail we will see in the third chapter. Okay, then we will talk about C. Wright Mills. He combined scientific and humanist approach. That also we will discuss in the future. So basically at this stage, third stage, what is happening? In a single word, if I need to say, integration of different approaches like micro, macro, okay, then scientific, humanistic, inductive, deductive, all these combinations is actually what happening. So then comes the next phase, that is recent time. Whatever you feel like you can write here, 1992 till now. Whatever you see, whatever you read related to sociology, you can write here. Sociology is permeating through every aspect of different bodies of knowledge, every aspect of social life. Not only concerned about social change, even though sociology emerged for studying the social changes, you can talk about clinical sociology, criminal sociology, sociology of crime, okay, which has to be done by criminology, but sociology is also entering into that. Industrial sociology, sociology of health. All these are the daily, everyday new and more fields are actually added to the scope of sociology, and the scope of sociology is keep on widening. So you can give an open-ended answer. It is keep on widening, and every day new fields are actually added to the scope of sociology. So can we go through the PDF now? Any doubt? Any doubts?
No, sir.
Can you explain Merton?
Merton says there are manifest and latent function. Merton, as a thinker, you need to study. So I will discuss more about Merton when it comes to the thinker, but still what he is saying is manifest and latent function. It is not only the function which can be seen. There can be some hidden functions also. For example, I've told you, when we talk about this, you are studying sociology. So firstly, what is a function of studying sociology? You will pass this exam. You are gaining knowledge, right? That is why you are studying sociology. That is the intended outcome. Intended. That is what you intend. That is what you intend. So that is what you expect. But there are some other outcomes possible. That is what unintended outcome. Like automatically that will help you in interview. That will change your perception towards society. That will improve your common sense. That will improve your confidence. That will change your personality. All these are unexpected or unintended outcome. That is the latent function. So he is talking about studying both manifest and latent function. Okay, yeah, inductive and deductive approach means it is a concept of theory building. Vignesh, it is actually concept of theory building. Two process of approach, two methods of conducting, investigation. It can be inductive. Inductive is more used in case of natural sciences. Okay, deductive is more used in case of social sciences. In case of inductive approach, you might be remembering that you have done some scientific experiment in the +1, +2. For example, physics lab, you might have done a lot of things, right? You make some experiment, you collect the data, you make some analysis, you make the interpretation, you will draw the graph or curve, and based on that you will come to some conclusion, some generalization, and you will repeat that, and you will ensure the reliability, validity. So this is done in case of science. So whatever you are doing in case of science, that is what inductive approach, right from data collection to the theory building and testing. But in case of deductive approach, I make a hypothesis. For example, I want to study about domestic violence. I make the hypothesis first. So I will say domestic violence is because of alcoholism. So I made the hypothesis and then I conduct the study. So that study is basically to prove this hypothesis. That is deductive approach. So you are deducing. So I can be open-ended. I can, instead of making this hypothesis, what I can do, I can ask to hundreds of people and I can get all the data, and from that I can generalize. So there can be many other reasons also. I don't want to keep this thing in my mind that it is because of alcoholism. So if I fix something already and then conducting the analysis, that is deductive approach. Directly you start collecting data, interpret data, then comes the generalization, that is inductive approach. Is that okay, Vignesh?
Okay, sir.
Yeah. See, I'm not able to connect to the Google Drive. I will move to some other app. I'll share the screen with you and I can explain with that, okay? Is this visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, very well.
Okay, so directly you will get questions.
Yeah, it's visible.
Directly you will get question, scope of sociology, or it can be a long question, discuss the scope of sociology and compare it with other social sciences. So this is what actually given in the syllabus. So this part is what I am discussing, scope of sociology. This part I am leaving it for later. We will complete it towards the end, because the reason why I am leaving it towards the end is because, see, I can give you an answer for sociology versus economy or comparison of sociology and economy, but it will be much better if I discuss this after thinkers, because a lot of points will be coming from the thinkers. For example, when we discuss about Marx, a lot of things which is discussed by Marx is coming in economy, which is coming similar. For example, mode of production, economic infrastructure, etc. Similarly, when we talk about Durkheim also, we will talk about division of labor. That is also related to economy. And similarly, when we discuss about Weber also, Weber is also talking about capitalism. So once you understand all these thinkers, this thing, even without separately preparing an answer for sociology versus economy, sociology versus anthropology, sociology versus psychology. For example, I have told you Weber already. Weber intended to study the meanings, motives, etc. That is connected to psychology only. Then Mead is also doing the symbolic interactionism, that is also connected to psychology. Then Durkheim's study of suicide, that is also connected to psychology. Psychologists used to study the reason behind suicide, etc. And Marx's concept of alienation, that is also related to psychology. So basically you just need only that 4 points to write an answer for this. This 4 points is enough to write an answer, and 4 thinkers, you are writing a very content rich answer. That 4-5 points is enough for you to write a 10 marker. 4-5 relevant and valid point is more than enough for you to write a 10 marker, and this will be asked in a 10 mark question. So I'm saying that's my logic, and if you want I can give you a ready-made answer. If you refer any book, any coaching institute material, even the essential sociology, everywhere you get the ready-made answer for this. But I will give you an approach with which you will be in a position to connect with all the thinkers, and you will be in a position to write better comparison with the knowledge that you have, rather than separately preparing and by hurting all these things. That's not required and that's not desirable. I've told you now already, psychology I've told you, I gave you 4 thinkers, and only from your syllabus. Apart from that also I can give you different thinkers, but that's not required. Weber's idea about studying social action and meaning attached by the actor, that is psychology. Mead concept of symbolic interactionism, division of this suicide by Durkheim, alienation by Marx, that 4 concepts is enough from 4 thinkers. Okay, so this part I'm leaving it for later. We will discuss, obviously I won't leave anything for chances, we will discuss, but at this point of time I'm not covering, I'm covering this only. Okay, so yeah, sociology emerged as a distinct discipline in response to the challenges posed before modernity in medieval Europe. This should be your first sentence. Always any question from your first 3 chapters, this has to be, you have to talk about emergence. So emergence is there. Okay, in response to the challenges posed before modernity is there, medieval Europe is there, everything is accommodated in this. Initially sociologists initially sociology was understood as a discipline. You make it correct. Sociology was understood as a discipline which will help in understanding the changes in society. That we have already discussed. Emergence of sociology is basically to explain the changes. Okay. Initial sociologists intended to develop sociology on the line similar to natural sciences. That you can see from Saint Simon Concern of Social Physics, Auguste Comte, okay, and then Herbert Spencer comparing it with organism. And the scope of sociology is gradually widening. In order to be scientific discipline, the scope of sociology need to be defined clearly. So you can see here different stages. There's the initial phase, second phase, third phase, and there's a fourth phase. This is not a clear-cut division. There is no such distinction or delineation is there. But for our convenience, we are making it in this way. Initially, the sociologists attempted to understand society as a whole in terms of macro units. So Auguste Comte, this spelling mistake, I'll try to correct it before I send it to you. But I've already messaged, so you please edit it, okay? Auguste Comte, the father of sociology. Whenever you write this name first time in any answer, Auguste Comte, comma, and father of sociology has to be there. First time when you write. And after that, even if you are just writing Comte, it's okay. Auguste Comte, the father of sociology, in his book Course of Positive Philosophy and the System of Positive Polity, delineated the scope of sociology into social statistics. It is not social statistics, it is social statics and social dynamics. Social statics is the basic factor of social order, that means the structure, which give every system its stability. Social dynamics is the inevitable evolutionary development of all, that means social change. So social static means social structure and social dynamic means social change. So you should study the social structure and social change. Comte argued for framing laws of social organization in order to develop sociology as a scientific discipline. So initial sociologists were concerned about making laws so that you will be able to make it similar to natural science. Okay, Herbert Spencer in his book Principles of Sociology compared society with an organism. Okay, I've told you already this point. So this book name is what you need to write. Anyway, you have to write that. compared society with an organism. Using a macro perspective, he delineated the scope of sociology in terms of its macro units like family, politics, religion, industry, associations, etc. His scope is more descriptive in nature. According to him, society should, this is sociology. Sociology should study the interrelationship among different elements of society woven together in some intricate yet meaningful pattern. It means, see, there are different elements of society, different social institutions like family, religion, okay, all these education, all these different elements of society are woven together. It is very intricate, it is very complex, but it is basically serving some purpose. There is some meaning for it. So you should be studying about that interrelationship between different social elements or different elements of society and how they interact. Okay, so that is what should be the aim of sociologist. And he compared society with an organism, and you can see here, compared society with an organism. Society, there are subsystems, and in organism you can compare it with organs, groups, tissues, individual, cell. Thus, initially the scope of sociology is based on macro humanistic view. The social investigation work to be conducted in an inductive approach. Okay, because they are stressing on science. After 80, the scope of sociology was further widened by Max Weber. Only one B is there, Max Weber, by introducing a micro perspective in sociology. According to him, sociology is a science which study the social action taken by individual and thereby arriving at an explanation of its cause and effect. Okay, so sociology is a science which study the social action. So that is the scope of sociology taken by the individual and arrive at an explanation of its cause and effect relationship. Okay, so why I am teaching this action, I am doing an action. So what you need to establish, you need to establish the cause and effect. Why I am teaching is the cause, what is the effect. So that relation should be bringing in. I want you to pass the exam and you will pass the exam. That is the cause and effect relationship. So how can you understand that? You have to study the meanings attached by the actor. What the meaning I am attaching to this action. If you know the meaning, you can easily establish the cause and effect. So for him, understanding the meaning attached by the actor to his action is the basic scope of sociology. Next is Emile Durkheim. He understood the scope of sociology as the study of social facts. Here you need to add a word scope. Only this first module, some spelling mistakes are there. I actually didn't check, it got typed from some other person. Later only I started checking and I forgot to update also here. So that's why some mistakes are there in the first chapter. So you can correct it anyway, these are very simple only. Emile Durkheim delineated the scope of sociology as a study of social facts. He proposed a macro view for identifying elements qualifying to be social facts. So macro view, this is actually a theory. Social fact is a theory, and here social action is also a theory. We will discuss this in 1000 or 800 to 1000 words. This also we have around 1000 words to discuss. So you don't want to worry even if you are not able to understand these words at this point of time. During his period, two books, Methods of Social Sciences by Weber and Rules of Sociological Method by Durkheim. These two books also we will study in detail when it comes to the respective things.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes. Tell me.
Sorry to interrupt. Your voice is breaking, sir.
Is it for everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
There is a part that the voice issue, the voice is breaking every time.
It is because of the problem of internet from my side. Even now also it is the same?
No, sir.
It's
Now it's
better.
fine.
It's better.
Now it's okay, sir.
Okay, it is not broadband. I'm taking from mobile phone. That is why this issue is there. I will correct it within 2-3 days. Here it is locked down, so I'm not able to get the broadband. I'll check it out. Okay, so towards the end of 19th century and the beginning of 20th century, sociology came to be taught as a discipline in different universities of Europe and America. During these period, the scope of sociology came to be understood in terms of two schools: formal school and synthetic school. We have already discussed this. So the formal school means they followed micro perspective. So they are the followers of Weber and took a limited view on the scope of sociology. According to them, sociology should confine itself to describing, classifying, and analyzing the micro units like activities, relationships, meanings, motives, emotions, feelings, etc. of the individual. For example, Weber understood sociology as the study of social action and the meanings, etc. of the individual. Kant used Mendel relationship like love, hatred, competition, corruption, etc. Von Weiss identified in terms of fundamental social process, means the ways of interaction. Tony's understood society in terms of social relationship. You can write only Weber enough, and if you have time and space, see, it will be hardly 10 marker. So you won't even get the space or to explain Weber properly. So these are not necessary, okay? So next is synthetic school. According to this, the scope of sociology is basically is macro perspective or to study the social facts. So you have to study the social facts. Scope of sociology is to study social facts and they use macro perspective. Okay. According to them, the relevance of a particular social phenomena must be understood in the context of wider reality. I will re-edit this PDF completely and I will send it to you again. There are some mistakes in the way the phrasing is done. So according to them, the relevance of a particular social phenomena must be understood in the context of wider reality. That means giving importance to society. So it emphasizes studying society as a whole. Durkheim identified the scope in terms of three principal divisions: social morphology, social physiology, general sociology. Karl Mannheim divided sociology into two segments: sociology, historical sociology. You don't want to get into this what is general sociology, what is historical sociology and all. I'm just giving you some content to write in scope of sociology. We will be seeing all those things. What is Durkheim's understanding? What is social morphology? All these things in detail comes to Durkheim. After 1940s, now you will see integration, right? So the scope of sociology was further enriched by the use of combination of micro and macro approach. So it is actually micro and macro approach for studying social action. For example, Parson in his book, The Structure of Social Action and the Social System, dismantled the dichotomy of micro and macro to develop an integrated view of the scope of sociology. According to him, sociology should aim at developing generalized theories. So he proposed generalized theories. Similarly, Robert Merton proposed development of middle range theories by studying middle range phenomena. So on one side, he is proposing generalized theory. This person is proposing middle range theory. I'll tell you what is middle range theory. That means it should not be very simple and it should not be too much vague also. That means it should not be too much abstract at the same time, it should not be very much elementary. It should stand in between. I'll tell you what is it and how is it made, and for that he is giving certain steps also. We will discuss all these things. Okay. We can also mention about manifest and latent function. So he is also proposing the study of manifest and latent function. Karl Popper, this is not Popper, it is Popper, combined the inductive and deductive approach to develop more holistic view. C. Wright Mills in the sociological imagination approach combines scientific and human approach. The scope of sociology further boosted by the development of perspectives like structuralism, phenomenology, this is there in your syllabus, we'll study. Ethnomethodology, again this is there in your syllabus, we will study this. Okay. Harold Garfinkel, this name is MKAL. Harold Garfinkel, Alfred Schutz. Okay. I will edit it. Okay, and I'll send it to you again. Recently, with the emergence of postmodern approach, a trend towards multidisciplinary view. There is a multidisciplinary view of the scopus visible. New fields of study are being gradually added to the sociology and are traditionally not considered as part of it. For example, sociology of health, criminal sociology, clinical sociology, all these are finding permanent space in scope of sociology. So the scope of sociology is gradually widening, and this was made possible also due to the incorporation of different methodologies with time. Different perspectives require an emphasis on different aspect on social reality. So we will see different perspective. Like Durkheim, when we talk about